Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. My guest today was literally born into the world of martial arts. Third or fourth children, and became very familiar to people in the DC area when at the age of only 5 years old, he was featured in a now famous commercial for his dad's martial arts school. He's currently a 7th Dan black belt and owns and operates the Jhoon Rhee Institute in Falls Church, Virginia. The school was the center of the Jhoon Rhee organization during the late 70s through the turn of the 20th century. He earned his bachelor's degree in business administration at the College of William and Mary. He's happily married to his wife, Lisa Lee. And when not in the Dojang, you can find him golfing and competing in kayak bass fishing tournaments. Please welcome my guest today, Master Chun Rhee. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Thank you, Brian.
I have to ask, nothing to do with martial arts, but or how long have you been a kayaker? I love kayaking. So.
I started that, 5 years ago.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. So it's actually kind of a new sport. But,
yeah.
I could talk hours about kayak bass fishing, but as a kid, I always wanted to be a bass angler.
Okay.
And I'm living my childhood dream of competing in bass tournaments. So it's out of a kayak, but it's fun.
That's cool. And I'm not a fisherman at all. I just love kayaking. I just love going down a river and enjoying nature and stuff and whatnot. But that's cool. Kind of interesting. So, but now back to the martial arts stuff. I mean, as I mentioned in the intro, I mean, literally with your father being Jhoon Rhee, you were literally born into the world of martial arts. But so do you even remember like what age he started training you? And I'm assuming you had no choice.
Yeah, it was pretty much, age 4, I think. I got a picture in my studio of my father. Actually, I think I'm wearing a Skipper Mullins black belt around my waist.
Really?
Yeah, it was kind of but anyway, yeah, ever since I was 4, my sister and I were, my father would just teach us at home until we were old enough to follow him to the school. Back then, the school was in 2000 L Street in Washington, D.C., and we pretty much grew up there in that school. So,
I mean, when you got to the age where you started at 4, when you got to the age where you could have made that decision and been like, I don't want to do this anymore. What was it? What was it that made you want to keep doing it and stick with it?
Well, so I do remember the day I wanted to stop. So
you do? Okay.
Yeah. So it was, so I didn't get my black belt till I was 15. I was in high school. And back then my passion was playing soccer.
Oh.
So the deal I had with my dad was that, if I get my black belt, can I stop? And he said, yes, you can quit if you want to. So I wanted to play soccer. So, it was, so at the time I was a student at the school where I teach at, and my instructor was John Chung. So John, and back then it was, John and Charlie Lee, Helen Chung. It was just an awesome environment. But I wanted to stop, and I trained extra hard that summer, and I got my black belt, and I quit the next day.
Really?
So
okay.
Yeah. So I was actually out of martial arts, from high school all through college.
Really?
Completely cold turkey, and then here I am running a school. So, but it was just, I was always I don't know if you say the bad son. My dad would always say growing up.
The rebel.
Right. Well, just, I think it's typical. You don't want to follow the footsteps of your father,
mm-hmm.
and you want to do something different. But I enjoy what I do now. I love teaching and running my school. But it was tough. I mean, it was tough for my dad too. Like, he kind of saw me as the the crown prince, I guess, to take over the organization when he passed. But I just stopped cold turkey.
So, random question then: how long did you play soccer for, and what drew you back to martial arts?
Well, so it was just soccer. It was just youth soccer, and
okay.
And, growing up, I played for my high school. I didn't play college soccer. But so after I graduated from William and Mary, I wanted to run my own business. And it wasn't to run a martial arts school either. I didn't want to be a part of the business. But after about 2 years of not really doing anything successful, my brother owned a school and he asked me to manage it because he lost his manager. And I said, okay, I agree to do it. So that's what got me back into it. My brother I'm not sure if he tricked me or this is my older brother, Jimmy.
Okay.
But I took over the school and I just started, by putting my own ideas and running the business and learning the business. And I really loved that part of it. And the school was struggling at the time. And after about a year and a half, 2 years, I kind of built it back up to a point where we're making money, paying the rent. And from that point, I started to, I think it was maybe running the business more.
Okay.
But the more I understood teaching martial arts and how it helped the kids and things like that, that really was, kind of a rewarding experience too. When you see a 6-year-old get a belt and the smile on their face and
Yep.
the parents, being proud of their kid, that really brings a lot of reward to the work.
So then when you were managing the school, were you also teaching there full time, or were you managing the school and doing something else?
Yeah, I was managing, teaching, kind of relearning as well, because I was out, so there was a transition of where my father was transitioning to teaching the ITF Taekwondo forms to the Jhoon Rhee system forms.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time that I was gone, there were a lot of curriculum changes
Ooh.
to what, when I grew up, I got my black belt learning, Chun Rhee, Tangun, Tosan, those traditional forms. And during when I was gone, my father had created some forms, the Jhoon Rhee forms, which were quite different from what I did. So I had to kind of relearn the curriculum as I taught. So, of course, my father was happy that I was, coming to him and I was asking him, hey, can you make sure you teach me the forms?
Nice.
And he was happy to see that I was coming back to the business. So, but yeah, it was both managing, teaching, running the school. I was learning everything at the time. So,
okay. So to back up just a little now, you started when you were 4 and then you were there till you were 15. So during that, 11-year time period, how was it training with your dad? And I mean, do you think he was tougher on you because you were his son?
Yeah, so he was definitely tougher on me. So going to my black belt exam. So this was the black belt exam. You had a panel of all the master instructors, and this included Jeff Smith, Michael Coles. Gosh, the panel was, all the world champion black belts, and my father.
Wow.
And so at the time when you tested for your black belt back then, they would call out. It was a point system. So the students with the highest points would be called out first, and then the students with the lowest points would be called out last.
Okay.
So I was the last student to be called. I had the lowest score, and my father said he actually failed me, but he was overruled by the master instructor to say, hey, you're being a little too tough on him.
Wow.
So I was grateful that I think Jeff Smith kind of told him, hey, he was not too bad. You need to pass him. So I was saved by Grandmaster Smith.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so, as a kids, we would, I think a lot of it was, we did a lot of demonstrations in the summertime, and he would tell my sister and I, hey, get your uniform on and we need to go downstairs. And so we would do Exodus, I think 100 times, a night.
Wow.
It was just, all right, do it again. And, that as a kid, like, oh gosh, I know the form. Why am I keep doing this? So that kind of, got to me, I guess, why am I training so hard? But as you get older, you appreciate kind of the discipline that my dad had. He wanted everything perfect. And that's just the way he ran the schools and, the standard that he had for his students. And, but, going through that was tough, especially at a young age.
Okay. Now, do you remember the commercial? I mean, yeah, actually.
Oh yeah,
you
absolutely.
do.
I remember my sister and I were just following my father. He was doing a commercial cut, and he was actually going to say, nobody bothers me. And I think the person who filmed it was a student, and the gentleman who was filming it suggested to my dad, hey, why don't you let the kids try it? Because might come across a little cuter than an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, sure. And then he grabbed, my sister and I remember standing on a milk crate and saying the line like maybe 4 or 5 times, and that was history. It was, yeah, I remember that clearly that day.
That's
And
cool.
I was 5 and she was 4.
Okay. Wow. So did you ever get teased about it from like schoolhood friends or
Oh
anything?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, up until that commercial ran for 20 years.
Oh my God.
Up
Wow.
until I was a sophomore in college at William and Mary. And so back then, there was no cable TV,
Yep.
and up here in the DC area, it was Channel 5 and Channel 20. That doesn't make any sense to people who don't live in the area, but
Yeah.
so it ran during the cartoons,
Okay.
the afternoon cartoons and Saturday cartoons, and it ran for 20 years. So I went to William and Mary, which is about 2.5 hours away from Washington, D.C. So back then, those channels actually went to Newport News, Virginia Beach area. So I had people who didn't, know what the Jhoon Rhee Technical School was, but they saw the commercial. And but yeah, growing up, it was always, hey, that's a nobody bothers me kid. And even today,
Still.
people, yeah, it still happens. So
So
it's
they still
funny.
bother you about it.
Yeah, they still bother me about it, right? I need to make a new commercial that everybody bothers me.
There you go. I almost wonder if that's got to be a record for one single commercial to run that long.
Yeah, so you can find it on YouTube,
Yep.
and but what's kind of funny was that our local radio station did a top 50 local commercials. Like these are the top 50 commercials back in the 70s,
Wow.
and I was a little disappointed. I think they listed us at like 20th or
Really?
something. I was like, "Are you kidding me? You're at the 20th. How are we not number one?"
Wow. What was number one? Do you
But
remember?
anyway, I think it was the Band-Aid commercial. I am
Jeez.
stuck on Band. I think it was that. But anyway, I
Wow.
thought we should have been at least top 5.
I think we need a recount, man. That's not fair.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we did.
That's funny. So then in those first 11 years, did you get into the teaching aspect of it then or not till you came back to it?
No, not till I got back.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't. Like John Chung was the instructor when I was testing for my black belt, and Charlie Lee, my cousin Philip, they were like the junior assistant instructors.
Mm-hmm.
And there were so many good black belts back then. Yeah, so I didn't teach. Once I got my black belt, I stopped, and then when I came back into it in '92, when I ran my first school, and then I took over the Falls Church location, which is where I am at currently.
And how about the competition side of things? Did you get into that as a youth?
No, I didn't really. I competed. We had intramural tournaments, so the junior intramurals, they were done like I think twice a year, and those were huge. And I competed in those, but nothing beyond that.
Think back to you took the break, you came back and started, kind of took over your brother's school and started teaching. Over all those years to now, what do you think has changed the most about your teaching style?
Wow, that's a good question. I'm a lot like my dad in certain ways in terms of like demanding the technique be precise, being hard on students, but in a positive way, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm probably a little more also, what do you call it? For students who have a hard time, I'm a little more patient with them. So my father was not very patient. He would say everybody has the same ability, and you need to do it this way, and you need to get it to this point. And he was always demanding. And probably one of his teaching flaws was that everybody learns at a different pace. So that's what I think that's different about me, is that I'm able to kind of differentiate some students who are maybe not as flexible, or maybe they're students who are maybe less coordinated, and understanding that you have to teach them differently to get to the point where they can be their best.
Nice. I know your dad was known, he taught like a ton of celebrities and stuff. Now, did you ever get to do any of that, or did you ever get to meet any of the celebrities he was teaching?
Yeah, I remember Bruce Lee coming to our house when I was little.
Oh, so you actually do. I was going to ask you if you actually remembered
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah, I remember him coming. I was 4 at the time, and I used to have a picture of him holding me, and I lost it. But
Wow.
so the celebrities that Muhammad Ali came to our house one time, and
Wow.
that was pretty cool. What else? And a lot of the celebrities that he taught were the senators and congressmen.
Yep.
Going to Capitol Hill and teaching there, and a couple of times he would drag me over there. But Tony Robbins again. I've met him, and so it's a lot of famous people.
Yeah, you mentioned the senators and stuff. I think I talked about that with Mr. Pineda too. That's just So cool that he was able to do that and do it right on Capitol Hill and have so much involvement.
Yeah, and so I mean, he did it for 30 plus years,
Wow.
twice a week, and he did it free of charge. I mean, he would go there every morning at 6 a.m. and he loved doing it. And you know, it's like they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So all the connections that he made through Congress, that's why he was, you know, very successful. He knew that it was about meeting, you know, the famous top people, and they all helped my father whenever he needed help. So it was kind of a smart move, but he dedicated himself to doing it. So twice, sometimes like 3 times a week, and you know, 2 hours every morning. So it was pretty impressive.
I didn't realize he did. I knew he did it for a long time, but I didn't realize it was 30 years.
It was 30 years of every week. Yeah.
Do you know the longest any of them stuck with it?
A lot of them got to second degree. I mean,
really?
Gosh, I don't know the names. Yeah, but they got to second degree black belt. Jesse Jackson Jr. was like the recent one. Like when I was younger, like I didn't follow Congress or senators.
Yeah.
But I remember I-Cord was one of the congressmen, maybe I forget his first name, but yeah, there are quite a few.
That's really, I mean, I'm surprised someone didn't try to keep that going, or, I mean.
It's just hard. I mean, you know, who wants to get up at 6 a.m, go to Capitol Hill and teach?
True. That is true.
So he loved doing it. And I think like some days when he would be sick, you know, he'd tell Grandmaster Smith to do it, or Master Cole. So they would, you know, fill in. And plus, you're doing it for free. So you got to find someone who has a passion to do it for free. So.
That is some dedication, plus, I can also see, like, in today's political climate, probably wouldn't want to be going there, and you probably end up reffing some fights or something while you were there.
Well, he had a thing, you know, at Capitol. He had a Republicans versus Democrats kind of an exhibition sparring match.
Really?
And, it's on video, but these guys fought like it was like full contact. It was kind of funny. Yeah, I have to kind of pull up that video, but it was pretty hardcore.
Wow, I definitely got to look that up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think, in your opinion, what do you want your dad's legacy to be? What do you want him most to be remembered for?
He really wanted to kind of, you know, make martial arts it wasn't like people should be proud that they teach martial arts, and that the profession is something that's honorable, that people should be able to make money and not to be ashamed of it. You know, I think what we do as martial artists, you know, teaching kids discipline and helping kids with confidence and things like that, it's pretty, you know, it's important work. So, and it didn't matter if you were a Taekwondo instructor or a Kung Fu instructor. Martial arts, you know, was one unified, you know, big family. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to elevate the image of martial arts and what the school, you know, what schools do to help society. So that would be the legacy that he would want to be remembered. I'm pretty sure.
I like that. That's really cool. All right, so you had mentioned that you didn't get, you know, involved in the competition at all when you were younger. Now, did you, as an adult, ever? I mean, you have obviously trained other people for competition, but did you ever get involved in it yourself as an adult?
No, I just it never interests me.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I wasn't putting the time that would be required to be, you know, a champion, you know, forms or sparring, and you know, people like Charlie Lee and John Chung, they that was their passion. That would be dedicated to their craft and spend hours training, and it just was something that I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I think it's something that you got to start at a younger age to really commit yourself. So when I was growing up, I was just waiting to get my black belt and being done with it.
Play soccer.
And playing soccer. So no, it's, you know, I love teaching. I love running the business. I've learned a lot about how to effectively run a school. I think you can run a quality school with quality students and be successful. So it's not work to me. You know, as I built my school up and the systems that I've created with my business, it's not work at all to me. I go into work. I love it. You know, going in every day.
So what, you know, obviously there's so many people around the country that teach, and, you know, maybe do it like part-time, or maybe can't get it to be a full-time business or even successful. What in your opinion, what are one or two things that are maybe missing that people, if they did this one thing different, it might be the turning the corner to make it a little more successful? You know, what do you think maybe you do differently maybe?
I think there's so many facets to a martial arts school in terms of everything's connected. So it's not, I don't think you can't target it on one thing. It's a system of different things that kind of work, they're all connected, I guess.
Okay.
Scheduling, tuition, the tuition options that you give a student, scheduling is a big thing, class schedule, and making sure that you put the kids in, depending on what age they're at, in the proper class structure. Too many schools, I think, start the kids, way too young. And what happens is, in order for them to, keep the kids excited about being in the school, they have to promote them. And then you have black belts who are 7 years old and they can't, punch through a paper bag. And that's a mistake, I think.
Yeah.
We don't start our kids in our regular program until they're 7.
Oh, wow.
7.5.
Okay.
We have what we call the knee-high ninja program, or like a little dragon type class for younger kids.
Yep.
And we used to start them at 4, and we're like, it's not working. It's just babysitting.
Yeah.
When kids are 5 at kindergarten, I think 5.5, they're able to kind of understand some basic concepts. So we teach our knee-high ninja program. It's basically our white belt program for kids 5 to 7 years old. And once we feel that they can physically handle and mentally handle the rigors of a regular class, that's when we move them up. And typically it's age 7, 7.5.
Okay.
And that's the best age, I think, to teach kids, forms and sparring and just the concepts of basic martial arts, where they understand what you're talking about. Most 5 and 6-year-olds, I don't think, have the ability to do that. And so we start them at 7.5 in a regular program. By the time they're 11, 12, and they're testing for the, some of them are testing for the black belt, but not 7 or 8. They're not mature enough. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think it's, I think schools need to slow down a little bit. And why rush it? I mean, I have students who've been in my school for 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So, you take your time.
Okay. And like I said, I've seen some schools starting them as young as 3, which is crazy. And
yeah, but exactly. What are you doing? If you're teaching like a basic, like tumbling class and, running around, and that's fine, but they're going to burn out. They're not going to stay with you.
Yep.
I'd rather have a student that's going to be, that understands what they're doing and who will be committed. So having them start at 7, with a regular program, I think is the ideal age.
I know, like my instructor, the youngest he'll take him is 5, but even then, he's turned away some 5-year-olds if he doesn't think they can, handle that class and stuff. And I also study a different system of Taekwondo. But do you guys do junior black belts, or do you just black belt?
No, we teach the same curriculum we teach our kids and adults. And so our schools, right now martial arts schools are typically, I think most are top-heavy kids.
Okay.
And so is our school. So, but we teach the same curriculum, at all ages. So we do not do a junior black belt.
Okay.
Our black belts are pretty good. In terms of technique. So, we really demand, this is how you throw a punch. This is how you kick. And, not to disparage other schools, but, I see these videos of these kids, they're doing their forms. I'm like, what are they doing? And you can teach the right way and still have a successful school. And I think some schools owners, they get too caught up with, I need to make, money, and I need to make this kid excited, so I'm going to give him his next belt. And I don't think that's right.
So do you guys do stripes in between belts, or is it just colored belts straight? How do you?
Well, it's colored belts with tips. So,
tips, okay.
Progress checks for tips. So, our curriculum is broken down into sparring, forms, what we call technical kicks, and combinations. So there are 4 areas that they have to master at each belt level, and they get a colored tip once they master that section. So it just keeps them motivated. One of the things that, as I was learning to run my business, I used to go to the educational funding company with Nick Okinis, and he would, him and his assistant, it was Commander Muffley, they would invite the Jhoon Rhee staff to their office once every 2 weeks. And they were awesome. I learned so much from Mr. Kokinas. And one of the things he said, which didn't really kind of resonate back then, was you have to test your kids every 3 months. You have to test them. And it's not passing them to the next belt, it's testing them.
Yep.
And you have to, every student of mine, once they get to a certain point, regardless if they're ready or not, we test them. And we tell them, hey, we need to see where you're at. And we focus on their technique. And if they need to work on something, we tell them, wait 2 weeks and work on, X, Y, or Z. But the importance of testing your students, making sure they're doing it the right way, that was a big thing that I learned from him.
Okay. So with your students and when they get ready to test for their is the black belt test that your students have nowadays fairly similar to what you had to go through, or has that changed much?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. So
Wow.
right now there are only two Jhoon Rhee schools in the area. It's my school and Master Panita's, the school that he's at.
Okay.
So we do our black belt tests combined. So our candidates come to the Falls Church location, and so our standards are pretty high. It's about the same. I remember the way we run the tests are exactly the same as when I went through it.
Okay, that's good. And like roughly, how long does your test last for first degree black belt?
About 3.5, 4 hours probably.
Okay. And you like when you run one, what is it? Do you wait? Is there a minimum number you have to have that are ready to test, or if you have one person ready, you let them test, or how does that work?
So we run our black belt exams 3 times a year.
Okay.
And it could be 20 students testing, or it could be 5 students testing. So we have one coming up. It might be 6 students testing. I think it's a pretty small number. We had a big one on March. We actually had quite a few second degrees testing. So it just depends, but we run them regardless of how many students we have.
Okay. And you said you have some of your students that have been with you, 15, 20 years. So what's the highest rank that you've brought one of your students to? Not that you've tested for someone else, but that you started at white belt, they've been with you, and now they're what rank?
They are fourth degree.
Now, in your guys' system, is fourth degree considered master like in other Taekwondo systems, or is it different?
It used to be fourth degree, and then my father, before he passed, pushed it to fifth degree.
Okay.
So we might put it back down to fourth degree, but right now it's at fifth degree.
Okay.
To be a master. But it may go back to fourth. We'll see.
I think a few Taekwondo systems did that, because I know that some other ones that switched it to fifth too. So
yeah.
Must have been, hey, they're doing it, we're going to do it too. So
right, yeah, it might have been that.
Now, you personally, what are your goals? What do you still want to accomplish in martial arts and Taekwondo? What's on the horizon for you?
I'm so different from my father. My father was a visionary. He was a kind of a global. I want to make an impact, worldwide, and I'm just not made of that. that. So mine, I just want to make sure that my students get the best, out of the instruction that they're coming to, that they enjoy their classes. I want once I leave my school and hand it down to my instructors, that they continue the same, kind of my father's legacy, I guess. Mm-hmm. I just want to run the best school that I can. I thought about going into consulting and helping other schools, but there's so many consultants out there. I don't know how I would reach out to them, but one of these days I may kind of open my doors and let people come see our school and teach them what I think is a proper way to run a business. We have 330 active students in our school, and I know there are schools that have 600-700, but I run one school. I run it, very successfully. All my staff. I have one other master instructor who has been with me since I started the school, Master Manuel Bonilla, and my senior instructor William Nixon. They both make a living. They do it full time.
Really?
And we run our school Monday through Friday. And actually, last year was the first year we actually canceled Saturday classes. So we used to, for the longest time, run a 6-day work week.
Okay. And
when COVID hit, we had to kind of pivot and obviously teach on Zoom. And we ran our Zoom classes Monday through Friday and had Saturdays off, for a year and a half. And we really liked the lifestyle of having that 2-day break. And so when we went back to teaching live, my instructor suggested, hey, why don't we try just, having Saturdays off when we come back to live? And I actually said no. I said, we can't do that. We're going to, it's a big business day. And after thinking about it for a little bit longer, I said, maybe we can do it for just 5 days a week. So 2022, January, when we opened our school, we ran Monday through Friday. And, once we announced that we would cancel Saturday classes, I thought we would for sure lose, 30 students. Mm-hmm. And we lost 2 students from canceling Saturday classes.
Wow.
And the weird thing was that we had more parents thanking us and congratulating us for getting the extra day off.
I can see that.
I thought that was weird. And I guess what parents said was that they don't want to come to the school at 10 o'clock in the morning to bring their kids, they want to, have a day off as well. It's because they're running around taking their kids to soccer practice and soccer games and baseball games. So they actually like the extra day off as well. So my school has been the busiest in terms of numbers since we canceled the Saturday class, which is odd. But yeah, so we run a very successful business. We don't do our first class starts at 4:45 in the afternoon, and our last class ends at 8:45.
Oh, okay.
So it's a 4-hour day of teaching. We don't do anything else, during the daytime in the morning. We get to the school at 2:30. We clean the school. We have a little, meeting before the classes start, and we teach 5 classes a day, Monday through Friday, and it's very successful. So
Wow.
it can be done.
Have you ever thought of doing like daytime stuff? Have you ever had anyone inquire about it?
We used to. We used to have an adult class. We used to do, cardio kickboxing classes, and Saturday class. We'd have we'd have full day Saturday from 9 to 2 o'clock, and then we do extra stuff, from 2 to 4, like private lessons, things like that. But once you get your school to a successful, in terms of you got your curriculums and your scheduling and your tuition, format set, it just runs. And I don't have to do the other stuff. I think most people do the other stuff like, yoga classes on the side because they need to pay rent. I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we just focus on just Taekwondo only right now, and we don't do any other side stuff.
Yeah. The Saturday class, I definitely see both sides of it, because when I was younger and first started training with my current instructor, he had class 6 days a week, and I was there 6 days a week. And at one point, where he gave me and a few other students keys, and we were there 7 days a week all the time. But now as a parent, I know having to run my kids' places all the time, 7 days a week, I'm like, I can definitely agree that it'd be nice having that day off. I mean, of course, once my kids started driving, it was much, much better. but yeah, my instructor, the main reason he stopped was because he got married. He started having kids and stuff. And it was just more of a family thing, where he used to teach this often, and he used to have adult classes 5 nights a week and Saturday mornings, and now he has adult classes 3 nights a week. So, and then kids classes the other days and stuff. So it's personal choice. And, he's actually grown because, and not lost any, maybe he lost some, but his school is more successful than it ever has been. So yeah, I definitely see both sides of that argument.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned COVID, and you closed down for a while. So what now, when COVID was happening, you said you were doing Zoom classes and stuff. Did most of the students take part of that? Did you see a drop off during COVID where people didn't want to train virtually, or did it stay pretty consistent?
So pre-COVID, we actually are doing really well. Probably had about 300 active students. And once the shutdown happened, we lost about 100 students. So we had to really figure out, okay, how we're going to keep these 200 students going on. And so we started the Zoom classes. So the way we structured the Zoom classes was that we kept it at 30 minutes, because we knew if anything longer than 30 minutes. So our normal class structure is 45 minutes.
Okay.
So we kept it at 30 minutes. And we were really surprised. So for a year, I guess I forget how long we were teaching Zoom for, but the students who started Zoom, I think maybe 2 or 3 kids quit out of the 200 that we had active.
Wow.
So we were able to keep the kids active and participating and even testing for belts during this period. And I think what was weird is that the kids, it was like, for them, it was like watching TV. So if you kept it animated, if you kept it fun, and kept it simple, the kids would actually pay attention. So the kids who typically in a group setting, who would lose focus in a group setting in class and get in trouble for, not paying attention, they actually were focused, staring at at their computer, watching the instructors teach. So it was kind of a weird situation. So yeah, all our students did great. And I think it was harder for the teachers to teach on Zoom.
Right.
That you don't get the interaction and with the students like you do in a live setting. So our instructors were getting burned out teaching on Zoom, but the students themselves, they seemed to, they were okay with it.
Okay.
And, but yeah, we it was a tough period, but we survived it.
Yeah. What type of modifications did you have to do to be able to test over Zoom? Most people I talked to weren't able to test. A lot of them taught, but that's interesting.
Yeah. So we told students that they had to so the big part of our curriculum is our forms requirement and our combinations. So we didn't test, obviously, sparring. We couldn't test sparring.
Okay.
Because we do a lot of sparring anyway in our regular teaching. We do what's called, every other week, we do what's called forms week and then sparring basics week. So we alternate that every week. So whenever it's sparring week, the kids know to bring their gear. And every class that week, they'll do something that's related to sparring or working on the basics. Whenever it's forms week, we teach, we work on their hyungs or their patterns. So it alternates. But anyway, so we kept that format on Zoom as well. We would teach footwork and sparring, the combinations. All they had to do when they tested was they had to show us their form that they learned and the combinations that they learned at their belt level.
Okay.
Now, typically in our system is that we test everything. So if a blue belt is testing the red belt, he has to show us the curriculum at white, yellow, orange, every belt level up to the level that he's at. And that's how we normally test.
Mm-hmm.
So during the Zoom period, we just told the students, don't worry about the previous stuff. We just want to test you on what you're learning right now. So that's how we tested them.
Okay.
But our standard is our black belts, when they test, they have to show us everything from white belt to black belt. And that's how we train, we get students or teenagers who once they get their black belt, we can I actually hire my high school kids and give them part-time jobs to develop them. And maybe you get one or two who wants to become an intermediate instructor through college. But that's how you develop your school is making sure that your students, when they're black belt, they know the curriculum. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of schools, what they do is they kind of cut corners and they say, okay, this is your black belt test. We're just going to test you on this, and this, just a couple of things. And in order to keep your school going, you got to train your students as if when they get their black belt, they're going to be future employees. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
Have any of your students gone on to open their own schools?
No. Well,
okay.
Yes. One of my instructors who left actually right when COVID started, she went off on her own and she has her own school now.
Okay. Cool.
And yeah, so I'm I don't want to age myself, but she started with me when she was 4.
Oh, wow.
And she's a master. So she was the 4th degree that I developed.
Okay.
She's a master instructor. Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. So you had talked about, consulting and possibly, showing other people how to run a school. Any thoughts? Have you ever tossed around the idea of writing a book about it?
I had written notes and things like that, but that has crossed my mind. But yeah, I haven't really taken the initial steps to actually do it. But yeah, one of these days, I'm trying to figure out, where I'm gonna, what is my end game in terms of, how much longer can I run the school and how much longer can I teach and what would I do afterwards? And kind of following my father's footsteps. He really enjoyed the seminar business and teaching seminars and going traveling. I'm not a big traveler, so if I taught, did a consulting business, I would have people come to my school,
okay.
and I'd show them. I think they would learn a lot from
true.
kind of seeing how we operate. And now that I have Saturdays off, it would be like a come Friday, see how we operate our school, and then on Saturday,
like a workshop.
I would teach you like a workshop at my studio. So. I'm semi-serious about doing that, but, we'll see. Maybe the podcast will spur some interest and people will call me. So.
I hope so. That's the thought.
Yeah.
So now you've been in, Taekwondo pretty much your whole life. Now, what are your thoughts on something like MMA and the UFC, and are you a fan?
So Charlie Lee took me to my first UFC fight.
Yep.
He's a huge fan, and he took me to my first fight in Las Vegas.
Nice.
And it's impressive. It is really impressive. I think it's two different sports, to be honest. I think it's a different category. It's obviously still growing in terms of the business part of it. We have a studio that's right across the street. And I haven't met the gentleman, but he is, his studio is called 50/50 MMA. He's actually very famous. He was in one of the UFC shows. I've never met him, but Master Panino knows him.
Okay.
But anyway, I know that they're sprouting everywhere. And, I think a lot of the adults, like teen adults like to go to that style of martial arts. I am a fan of it. I don't follow it. I don't follow the fighters. And if I see I'm not actively looking to see a show, but I think it's good to some extent, but I think a lot of parents who come to our school, for their kids, they don't want their kids to be, doing MMA stuff. So yeah, I think it's good to some degree.
Yeah. In all your years of martial arts and all the time growing up with your dad and stuff, is there one philosophy you've learned that just rises to the top? It's super important. You keep coming back to it.
Wow. One philosophy. My father's favorite saying was truth, beauty, and love. And, my favorite is knowledge in the mind, honesty in the heart, and strength in the body. That's what we say in our student creed. And my father always said that, those three things, knowledge, honesty, and strength, that's how you build confidence. If you're smart, you're very confident. If you're strong, you're confident, and if you're honest, you're confident. So that's the full circle of true confidence. So that's a philosophy that I like that kind of resonates with me the most.
Nice. All right. I have a few fun questions to wrap it up. And I've had people say as few as 2 names as many as 8. So it doesn't have to be 4, but who are, three, 4, 5 names you would put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Wow. My father would definitely be on that.
Yep.
Bruce Lee.
Nice.
Who would I put on there? Chuck Norris would have to be on there, I think.
Nice. Another good one.
Who's the 4th one? I would have to say it would be my father's instructor, who the father of the Chun Rhee Taekwondo. Growing up, he was my Taekwondo grandfather. So in Korean, it was Taekwondo Halabuji is what I would call him. So I didn't know how big of a man in terms of his stature, who he was, until I was older. I was like, oh, he started at Chun Rhee school. So it would have to be him.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a little biased with Taekwondo, I guess. But.
Hey, and a lot of people are. I mean, a lot of people, obviously, a lot of people throw Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris up there too. But those are some solid names on there. So, all right, how about now this one? You can't pick one of your dads. A favorite martial arts book.
Favorite martial arts book. I'm gonna have to be honest. I never read many martial arts books.
Really?
Yeah, it was all just. It was always just going to the studio and practicing. So I wouldn't be qualified to answer the question.
All right, which one of your dads is your favorite then?
All his the Bruce Lee and I.
I love that one. Mr. Pineda sent that one to me. I had never read that one, and he sent me a copy. So phenomenal book. All right, now this one you're close to my age, so you might have an answer for this one. How about a favorite martial arts video game? Were you ever a gamer?
I was really not a gamer, so Mortal Kombat is probably the only game I ever really played.
Okay, that's okay.
So it had to be Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
All right. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
It would have to be Kung Fu.
Okay, you're a fan. Okay. Now, did you ever watch
I remember as a kid. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you ever watch the sequel, The Kung Fu: A Legend Continues?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't like watching sequels because I don't want to ruin my image of the original. So. Okay. Yeah, it had to be Kung Fu.
Nice. Yeah, that one. I was 4, I think, when that came out. 3 or 4.
I was. Yeah, so I'm 56. How old are you?
49. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I was a little older. I mean, 10 or 11. So. But I like that show. Yeah,
I liked it, and obviously when I got older and watched it, when I watch it now, I'm like, man, that technique's not that good. But exactly. but as a kid, wow.
Exactly.
Cool. How about a favorite martial arts movie?
Enter the Dragon.
Nice.
I would watch. So we would. My father. I don't know the name of those machines. So it was pre-VCR. These were the machines that were about the size of a trash can, and the cassette tapes were like maybe the size of half a pizza box, I think. Oh wow. So my father we have it was 4 cassettes of Enter the Dragon that we had to put in. So we put in one cassette, and when it would cut off, and we had to put the cassettes in 4 times to watch the entire movie. And I would watch that movie I think 100 times a year.
That's awesome.
And I just love that movie, and I think it's the best. It's still to me the best martial arts movie ever.
Okay. So here's a question now. Being an instructor and running a school, what are some movies you think have had an impact on your school? Like, is there when something like when Enter the Dragon came out, there was a massive boom of people joining martial arts schools. When Karate Kid came out, martial arts schools, it kind of exploded. Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers. So is there some that you remember from running your school that had an impact?
Well, it was those movies you just mentioned. It was Ninja Turtles and Karate Kid. I think when that really impacted, I think, the kids market in terms of the kids coming to the schools, and a lot of schools focusing on kids, I guess, and that's what we do. But I think there's so many more martial arts movies that have come out. I think the impact is great because those movies, Karate Kid and the Ninja Turtles, that was really the turning point, I think, with kids wanting to do martial arts.
Have you seen anything from like some of the modern TV shows like Warrior or Cobra Kai?
No, not really. Because I don't think kids watch it. I think that those appeal more to adults. Not so much like because I don't think it's made much of an impact that I've recognized in my school. Yeah. And I know there are cartoons, like Ninjago and those things that the kids still, like some of the younger kids watch.
Yep.
But I'm not so in tune with that, so I don't know what they're watching, the name of it exactly. But yeah, so.
All right, this question now, this one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie, just a favorite movie fight scene.
Favorite movie fight scene. Wow. Well, everything on Enter the Dragon I thought was awesome. Yeah, so one of my second favorite movie was Jackie Chan's Snake in the Eagle Shadow.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so I love that movie. And actually, back in the day, there used to be a movie theater that it was like, Kung Fu movie, Friday night movie. And John Chung actually took me and Charlie Lee, and we all saw that movie. And I loved that movie too. So I thought that was a close second.
That's awesome.
So I like the really early day Jackie Chan movies. But yeah, those are really good.
So are any theaters near you showing Enter the Dragon this year for the 50th anniversary?
That's a good question. I know that what I just found out was cool with the soccer team, the Seattle Sounders, what they did with their soccer jersey.
Yeah.
Commemorating Bruce Lee.
Really?
So yeah, so they have their uniform. One of their kits is the 50th anniversary commemorating Bruce Lee kit. So they wear the Seattle professional soccer team. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so we actually, on a side note, we have a Chinese American museum locally in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And I helped them contact Linda Lee, and she's actually donating some artifacts.
Oh, wow.
They're celebrating Bruce Lee's 50th. And we've also, the letters that that Bruce Lee wrote to my father, I've sent them some copies of not the actual copies, but the photos of these letters, so they're going to display those letters. But 50th Bruce Lee's. It's amazing. It's been 50 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my local theater to do it, and so far they haven't said anything. I just looked at those jerseys; those are sweet.
Yeah. Is there going to be I heard there was going to be a remake of Enter the Dragon. Is that something? Maybe
they've been talking about it for a long. I mean, I really hope.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind maybe seeing like a sequel like 30, 40, 50 years later or something like that. But I mean,
yeah. You can't, it'd be hard to remake that movie.
What I would like to see, I hope someone would do, I would like to see some filmmaker take today's technology and not remake, but re-edit and kind of redo Game of Death.
Yeah. I was disappointed with the ending of that movie. I was so disappointed with it. I mean, didn't they have like a cutout of his face on the
literally, it was like a cardboard cutout.
In the mirror.
Yep.
And I was like, what is that? Yeah, but today's technology, they can probably do that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm hoping someone will do, and I've told that to a few movie makers I know. I'm like, wouldn't that be like, yeah, that'd be awesome? Like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, isn't there like it's that video of him playing ping pong with the nunchucks? I mean, they can definitely do it. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, and how many people thought it was? How many people thought it was real?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they should definitely be able to do that. That's a good idea.
I'm hoping someone hears so maybe someone will hear this and be like, hey, let's do that, because I think that'd be kind of sweet. But yeah, Enter the, I mean, they did Jet Li did a sequel to, was it Fist of Fury? He did
I never saw it.
It was like Fist of Legend or something, like I can't remember the name of it, but it was actually really good.
Was it? Okay.
So I mean, I could see like a sequel to some of his or something, or somehow connected them, but they don't need to redo them. It's just, I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, with CGI, they should just like patch that movie up. That would be a good idea.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to watch. I mean, I'll fast forward through the scenes when he's like, fighting like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and stuff. But the rest of it, when it's just an actor with a cardboard cutout of Bruce Lee's face on him, I'm like, and I realized back then that was the technology, that was the best they could do, but it's kind of sad. So, well, before I let you go, anything that maybe I forgot to ask you or you want to be sure we mentioned, before we wrap it up?
No, it's just thank you for having me on. I think it's great what you're doing. And how long have you been doing this? Brief history of me. So I started martial arts when I was 10 back in '84 after seeing Karate Kid. I literally walked out of the movie theater and the local Tung Sudo school was handing out free passes. So that was my my intro to martial arts. I started in radio when I was 15.
And and then when I was a teenager, I got into Shotokan. When I moved away to college, I did Aikido and traditional Taekwondo. Moved to California, did American Kempo, and I dabbled in other stuff. I've done some boxing, I've done some kickboxing, I've done some judo and jiu-jitsu and stuff and whatnot, some Hapkido. But in the mid 90s, when I was working in radio, I had the idea of doing a martial arts talk show. And for about probably 13 years, every station I worked at, I pitched the idea to, and nobody would let me do it. None of them believed it would work. The last station I tried it with, I think it was 2009 or 2010. I think it was maybe 2011. I was working at a station, and before I pitched it to him, I went out and I got everything together, and I went to him and I said, here's the deal. I have this idea for a show. I have this. I have these 20 people lined up to be guests. I have these 4 local schools that will sponsor the show. We'll have money coming in, blah, blah, all this stuff. And they still said no. I was like, wow. I'm like, guaranteed money. I'm like, wow. And they would not budge on it. And when podcasting first hit, I thought about it. I'm like, man, I don't really have a lot of time. And then COVID hit, and I'm like, I suddenly had all this free time because, I still have my regular job, but I also do sports PA announcing. I'm like the stadium announcer for local college sports. And a lot of those sports went away during COVID. I'm like, man, I have all this free time. Yeah. I'm like, maybe I should do that podcast thing, do my show as a podcast. So I started for about 6 to 8 months before I actually launched my show. I reached out to all these martial artists I knew, and I started recording episodes. So when I was ready to launch, so I've been going just over 2 years. I think you're episode number 122, I think. So just over 2 years, but I had 25 episodes fully edited and produced before I actually released the show.
Okay, wow. So you started after COVID, like during COVID you started? During
COVID, yeah. Right at the beginning, kind of at the beginning. Great. Yeah, so it's, when I first, the whole idea was I wanted a mixture of martial artists that people know and martial artists that people didn't know. I also wanted to mix, and I wanted some celebrities that weren't known to be martial artists. And, I didn't like a lot of the other podcasts that were doing things, they were going for just the big names and just this. And, I wanted more of a mixture. I wanted the person down this. I actually went back and interviewed all my original instructors, my Tung Sido instructor, my Shotokan instructor, my Taekwondo instructor, and my American Kempo instructor, had them all on the show, and other local instructors, and just found people with cool stories to tell. And then I also started reaching out for some, at least what I considered big names. I reached, and my very first guest, one of the first people to say yes was Tom Bleecker. I don't know if you know that name or not.
Doesn't.
But he wrote Unsettled Matters, the Bruce Lee book. Okay. And he was actually married to Linda for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. But he was one of the first ones to say yes. I had met him online and stuff. And then one of the next big names to say yes was Ed Parker Jr., which I had actually met him once. And when I sent him a message and he remembered me, he's like, I'd love to do it.
That's cool.
And once you get big name, or at least big names in the martial arts, other people take notice.
Right.
I've had 2 people ever say no, and I've had 2 people that tried to charge me. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't make a dime doing this, so I can't pay you.
Yeah.
But one of the guys who said no, he said no before. He was one of the first ones I contacted before I started the show, and he's like, I don't know who you are, blah blah blah. I've never heard your show. I'm going to, politely decline. I was fine with it. And he was a celebrity. And about 6 months after my show started, I sent him another message. I said, hey, I know you don't want to do this, but I know you know some of my guests, and I thought you might enjoy these interviews. And I just sent him a link. And 5 minutes later, he messaged me back. He goes, that's an impressive guest list. How does next Tuesday work for you?
Oh, good for you.
That's awesome. So yeah, there's only one now that has said no, that I haven't had on the show. And so it's been going good. I mean, and I get referrals from, Mr. Pineda has probably got me about 10 guests.
Oh, good.
He knows a lot of people. Yeah, he knows a lot of people, and, I've had Dan Inosanto's daughter. I had people who trained with Bruce Lee in Seattle. I've had people from movies and TV shows, and people from like The Mandalorian, and obviously Ian Armitage from Young Sheldon. Which was Francis set that one up for me, which was awesome. And everyone I talked to who listened to the episode, he's a martial artist. It's like, and that's one of those guests I was going for. They don't know he's a martial artist.
Exactly.
So it's been going good. I love doing it. And it's just, it takes time. It's my average interview is an hour, and I spend about 4 to 5 hours editing each episode.
Yeah.
It's a time consuming thing. but it's fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Cool. No, I appreciate it. I truly appreciate your time. I've so enjoyed this, and I can't wait to get the episode out.
All right, Brian. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good night, sir.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.